The fluorescent lights in the police station made everything look harsh and cold. I sat there with my hands folded in my lap, trying to stop them from shaking while my ex-husband Derek paced back and forth like he owned the place. His mother Constance sat across from me, her lips pressed into that familiar thin line of disapproval she'd perfected over the years. Officer Halstead was typing something on his computer, occasionally glancing up at me like I was some kind of criminal. "She's lying about everything," Derek said for the third time, his voice carrying that fake concern he'd mastered during our divorce proceedings. "Check her bank records. You'll see she's been desperate for money, probably sold him to pay off her debts." My 7-year-old daughter Vera sat in the corner of the room on a plastic chair that was too big for her. She'd been so quiet that everyone seemed to have forgotten she was there. Her legs swung back and forth, not quite reaching the floor, and she held her favorite stuffed rabbit tight against her chest. Her eyes moved between all the adults in the room, watching, listening, understanding more than anyone gave her credit for. "I would never hurt my son," I said, my voice cracking despite my efforts to stay strong. "Jonah is only 3 years old. He's probably scared and confused, and we're wasting time sitting here while he's out there somewhere." "Or you know exactly where he is," Constance interjected, her voice dripping with accusation. "I always told Derek you were unstable, always said you'd be the death of those kids. And now look what's happened." The words hit me like physical blows. This woman who had made every family gathering a battlefield, who had whispered poison about me to anyone who would listen, was now using my missing baby as ammunition. My sweet Jonah with his dark curls and infectious giggle, who just this morning had been playing with his toy dinosaurs and making them roar at his breakfast cereal. Officer Halstead looked up from his computer. "Mrs. Turner, we need you to understand the severity of this situation. Your son has been missing for 3 hours. If you know anything about his whereabouts, now is the time to tell us." "I've told you everything," I said, feeling the tears starting to burn behind my eyes. "We were at Riverside Park. I answered one phone call from my brother about my father's surgery. It was maybe 90 seconds. When I looked back, the swing was empty. Vera was still on the monkey bars, but Jonah was gone." "Convenient," Derek muttered. "A phone call nobody else heard. A mysterious disappearance nobody else saw. There were other parents there. They helped me search. Parents you probably paid off," Constance added, "or friends you convinced to lie for you." The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed, but the situation was too serious. These people who were supposed to care about Jonah were more interested in destroying me than finding him. Every second we sat here was another second my baby was out there, possibly hurt, definitely frightened. "Mr. Turner," Officer Halstead addressed Derek, "you filed an emergency custody petition yesterday claiming your ex-wife threatened to disappear with the children. Can you elaborate on that?" Derek's eyes lit up with satisfaction. "She's been unstable since the divorce, lost her job, behind on rent, desperate. She told me she'd rather see the kids gone than let me have them." "That's not what happened," I protested, but nobody was listening to me anymore. They'd already decided I was guilty of something horrible. The single mother who couldn't keep her life together. The bitter ex-wife who'd rather harm her own children than lose a custody battle. Vera shifted in her chair, and for the first time since we'd arrived at the station, she spoke. Her voice was small but clear, cutting through the adult chaos like a bell. "That's not true." Everyone turned to look at her. Derek's face changed, that flash of annoyance he always got when the kids didn't follow his script. "Vera, sweetheart, the adults are talking," he said in his fake gentle voice. But Vera stood up, still clutching her rabbit, and looked directly at Officer Halstead. "My daddy is lying, and I know where Jonah is." The room went completely silent. Derek's face drained of color. Constance's mouth fell open. I felt my heart stop. Vera took a deep breath, squared her small shoulders, and said the words that changed everything. "Officer, should I show you where Daddy really hid my little brother?" That Saturday morning had started with such promise. I remember standing at the kitchen window, watching the sun paint gold streaks across our small backyard while coffee brewed behind me. It was one of those perfect September mornings in Connecticut where the air felt crisp, but not cold, and the leaves were just beginning to turn. Jonah was already awake, sitting on the living room floor in his dinosaur pajamas, making his toy trucks crash into each other with explosive sound effects only a 3-year-old could create. Boom! Crash! The red truck wins! He announced to no one in particular, his dark curls bouncing as he acted out the collision. Vera sat at the kitchen table, her second-grade reading workbook open in front of her. She was 7, going on 17, always so serious about her homework, even on weekends. Her pencil moved carefully across the page as she sounded out words under her breath. "Mom, what does courageous mean?" she asked, looking up at me with those big brown eyes that were so much like mine. "It means being brave, even when you're scared," I told her, pouring orange juice into her favorite purple cup. "Like when you told the truth about who broke Grandpa's vase, even though you thought you'd get in trouble." She nodded thoughtfully and went back to her workbook. If only I'd known how much courage she'd need to show just hours later. The divorce had been final for 6 months, and we were finally finding our rhythm as a family of 3. The apartment was smaller than our old house, sure, but it was ours. No more walking on eggshells, no more Derek coming home at midnight smelling like another woman's perfume, no more arguments that made the kids hide in their rooms. Derek had fought the divorce every step of the way, not because he wanted to save our marriage, but because he couldn't stand losing. He was the successful real estate agent with the perfect smile and firm handshake. I was the nurse who'd lost her job during the pandemic cutbacks. In his mind, that made him the winner by default. When the judge granted me primary custody anyway, something shifted in him. The mask he wore for judges and social workers started slipping. "Mommy, are we seeing Daddy this weekend?" Jonah asked, wandering into the kitchen with his favorite truck. "Not this weekend, baby. Next weekend is Daddy's turn." That was the schedule. Every other weekend, alternating holidays. Derek had been pushing for more, claiming I was alienating the children from him. His mother, Constance, had been helping him build a case, showing up at school pickups with her little notebook, documenting every minute I was late, every time Vera's hair wasn't perfectly braided, every time Jonah had a runny nose. "She's building a case," my lawyer had warned me. "Document everything on your side, too." So I did. The folder in my bedroom was growing thick with receipts, school reports, medical records, photos of the kids thriving despite the upheaval. Derek had missed 3 child support payments, but somehow could afford a new BMW. He'd returned the kids 2 hours late last Sunday because he'd taken them to his girlfriend Amber's pool party without telling me. Vera had come home sunburned and upset because Daddy's friend kept trying to be our new mommy. "Can we make pancakes?" Jonah asked, climbing onto his chair at the table. "With chocolate chips?" "With chocolate chips," I agreed, reaching for the mixing bowl. As I stirred the batter, Vera put down her pencil. "Mom, why does Grandma Constance hate us?" "She doesn't hate you, sweetheart. She hates you, though. She told Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store that you're an unfit mother." I heard her. I set down the whisk and knelt beside my daughter's chair. Sometimes adults have complicated feelings. What matters is that I love you and Jonah more than all the stars in the sky. "More than all the pancakes in the world?" Jonah chimed in. "Even more than that," I laughed, ruffling his hair. We ate breakfast together, Jonah getting syrup on everything within a 3-foot radius, Vera carefully cutting her pancakes into perfect squares. They were good kids, happy kids, despite everything. The court-appointed evaluator had even noted how well adjusted they seemed, how secure their attachment to me was. "Can we go to the park today?" Vera asked as she helped me clear the dishes. "Jonah wants to feed the ducks." "Of course. We'll go after lunch." Those normal, everyday moments feel like a lifetime ago now. If I could go back, would I do anything differently? Would I have skipped the park, ignored my brother's call, held Jonah's hand tighter? The what-ifs could drive you crazy if you let them. Riverside Park was crowded that afternoon, filled with families enjoying what might be one of the last warm Saturdays before fall really set in. The playground buzzed with children's laughter, parents chatting on benches, and the distant sound of dogs barking in the off-leash area. Jonah had been so excited when we arrived, practically vibrating out of his car seat as I unbuckled him. "Swings first! Swings first!" he chanted, pulling me toward his favorite spot. I lifted him into the toddler swing, the one with the high back and safety bar. His little hands gripped the chains as I pushed him gently, his giggles floating through the air with each arc. Vera had already claimed her spot on the monkey bars, moving across them with the determination of an Olympic athlete in training. "Higher, Mommy! Touch the sky!" Jonah squealed, kicking his legs with joy. That's when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my brother Nolan's face. I almost didn't answer, but our father was scheduled for heart surgery on Monday, and I'd been waiting for updates about the pre-op appointments. "Keep swinging, baby. Mommy needs to answer this real quick," I told Jonah, stepping exactly 3 feet away to the nearest bench. I could see both kids clearly. The swing was still moving in its gentle rhythm. "Renata, Dad's surgeon, wants to move the surgery to Tuesday," Nolan said immediately. "Something about the anesthesiologist's schedule. Mom's freaking out about it being a bad sign." "It's not a bad sign. They're just coordinating schedules. Tell Mom that Tuesday actually gives them more prep time, which is good." I kept my eyes on both kids as I talked. Vera had made it halfway across the bars. Jonah's swing was slowing down, but he was still smiling. "Can you call her? You know she listens to you better about medical stuff." "I'll call her tonight after the kids are in bed, I promise. Listen, I'm at the park with them right now, so I should go." "Yeah, okay, thanks, Ren." I hung up and turned back to the swings. The empty swing moved slightly in the breeze, but Jonah wasn't in it. My heart stopped for a single moment before a logical thought kicked in. He must have climbed out to go to the slides. "Jonah?" I called, scanning the immediate area. "Jonah, where are you, baby?" Vera dropped from the monkey bars and ran over. "He was just here, Mom. He was right there." We checked the slides first, then the sandbox, then the little playhouse structure. Other parents started noticing my increasing panic. A woman with twin boys helped me check the bathrooms. A father with a daughter Vera's age looked around the parking lot. "What's he wearing?" someone asked. "Green. Dinosaur shirt, blue shorts, light-up sneakers," I managed to say, my voice getting higher with each word. Within 10 minutes, every parent in that park was searching. Someone called 911. I called Derek, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hit the right numbers. "Jonah's missing," I said the moment he answered. "We're at Riverside Park. I can't find him anywhere." "What do you mean you can't find him? How do you lose a 3-year-old? His voice was sharp, accusatory from the start. "Just get here, please." The police arrived in 12 minutes. It felt like 12 hours. Officer Halstead, a tall man with kind eyes that turned suspicious the moment Derek arrived and started talking. Derek had brought Constance with him, because of course he had. She emerged from his BMW like a vulture sensing carrion, her sharp face already set in an expression of grim satisfaction. "I knew something like this would happen," she announced to anyone within earshot. "I've been documenting her negligence for months. The children are never properly supervised." "I was 3 feet away," I protested, but Derek was already pulling Officer Halstead aside. "She's been unstable since the divorce," Derek said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Lost her job, can't pay her bills. I filed for emergency custody yesterday because I was concerned about exactly this kind of thing happening." "You filed for custody yesterday?" I spun around to face him. "You never told me that. Why would I tell you, so you could run off with them?" He turned back to Officer Halstead. "Check her phone records, check her bank statements. She's been desperate for money, probably sold him for drug money." "Drug money? Derek, you know I don't even drink anymore, let alone do drugs." Constance stepped forward, placing a hand on her son's shoulder in a show of support. "Officer, I've watched her deteriorate for months. She's vindictive, desperate, and now my grandson is missing. I always said she'd be the death of those kids. Looks like I was right." The interrogation room at the police station smelled like stale coffee and industrial disinfectant. They'd called it a voluntary interview room, but nothing about being there felt voluntary. Officer Halstead sat across from me with a yellow legal pad, writing down everything I said while occasionally glancing at Derek, who had positioned himself in the corner, like some kind of supervisory presence. Constance sat beside him, her notebook out, pen poised like a weapon. "Walk me through the phone call again," Officer Halstead said, his tone neutral but his eyes skeptical. "My brother Nolan called about my father's heart surgery. The call lasted maybe 90 seconds. I was standing by the bench, watching both children the entire time." "But you weren't watching them," Derek interrupted. "If you were watching, Jonah wouldn't be missing." "Mr. Turner, please let her answer," Officer Halstead said, though he made another note on his pad. Through the glass window of the interview room, I could see Vera in what they called the children's room, sitting at a small table with a social worker named Mrs. Chen. They'd given her crayons and paper, trying to keep her occupied while the adults sorted through this nightmare. She was drawing something with intense concentration, her tongue poking out slightly the way it always did when she focused. "Mrs. Turner," Officer Halstead continued, "your ex-husband has provided us with some concerning information. He says you threatened to disappear with the children." "That's not true. I would never say that." Derek pulled out his phone with theatrical precision. "I have it recorded. Listen for yourself." He pressed play, and my voice filled the room, distorted and choppy. "I can't let you take the children. Never see them again." My blood ran cold. I recognized those words, but not in that order. "That's edited. Those are pieces from different conversations. I said I couldn't let him take the children to Florida because I'd never see them again. He's planning to move there with his girlfriend." "She's lying," Constance said sharply. "She's always been manipulative. Ask anyone in the neighborhood. Ask the teachers at school. She's unhinged." "The teachers love me," I protested. "Mrs. Morrison just told me last week that Vera is thriving despite the divorce." "Because you probably bribed her," Constance shot back. Officer Halstead held up his hand for silence, then slid a document across the table. "This is the emergency custody petition Mr. Turner filed yesterday. It lists several incidents of alleged neglect, leaving the children unsupervised, being late for pickups, failure to provide adequate meals." Failure to provide adequate meals? I couldn't believe what I was reading. "Because I gave them McDonald's once after Jonah's doctor's appointment ran late." "Fast food is not proper nutrition," Constance interjected. "I raised Derek on home-cooked meals every single night. Your son missed 3 child support payments while buying a new BMW." The words burst out before I could stop them. Officer Halstead made another note. "Mrs. Turner, have you been experiencing financial difficulties?" "I'm a single mother. Money is tight, but my children have everything they need. Their teachers, their pediatrician, everyone will tell you they're well cared for." "Except right now, one of them is missing," Derek said coldly. I wanted to scream at him to help find our son instead of trying to destroy me. But I knew that would only make me look more unstable. Through the glass, I saw Vera suddenly stop coloring. She stood up and Mrs. Chen tried to redirect her back to the table, but Vera shook her head and walked toward the door. "I need to talk to my mom," I heard her say clearly through the thin walls. "Sweetie, the adults are having an important conversation right now," Mrs. Chen replied gently. "About my brother, and they're getting it wrong." The door opened, and Vera walked in with the determination I'd seen when she'd decided she was ready to ride her bike without training wheels. Mrs. Chen followed, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry," she insisted, Mrs. Chen said. Derek's face shifted into his fake father smile. "Vera, sweetheart, go back in color. Daddy and Mommy are talking to the nice officer." "You're not talking, you're lying," Vera said flatly. "That recording is fake. I was there for all those conversations. Mom said you couldn't take us to Florida. She said she couldn't let you take us away where she'd never see us again." The room went quiet. Officer Halstead leaned forward slightly, his interest clearly piqued. Derek's jaw tightened, a tell I recognized from years of marriage. He was calculating his next move. "Vera, you're confused," he said carefully. "You don't understand adult conversations." Vera turned to face Officer Halstead directly, her small frame straight and confident. "I understand everything, and I know something else too, something about where Jonah really is." Vera stood in the center of that interrogation room like a tiny warrior facing down an army. Her eyes moved from Officer Halstead to Derek, then back again. She still held the picture she'd been drawing, and I could see now it was a map of some kind, drawn in purple and green crayon. "What do you know about your brother, Vera?" Officer Halstead asked gently, pulling out a chair for her. She didn't sit. Instead, she placed her drawing on the table and pointed to it. "Yesterday, when Daddy picked us up for his visit, he told Jonah they were going to play a special game, a hiding game, for today." Derek shot to his feet. "She's making things up. Kids have wild imaginations when they're stressed." "Let her speak," Officer Halstead said firmly. Vera continued, her voice steady and clear. Daddy said it was like a treasure hunt. He told Jonah that when we went to the park today, he should wait until Mommy wasn't looking, then run to the parking lot where Uncle Mason would be waiting in his truck. Uncle Mason would take him to the cabin by the lake for a special surprise. That's absurd, Constance sputtered. A 3-year-old couldn't remember such complicated instructions. Daddy made him practice, Vera said simply. 3 times in the backyard. He gave Jonah a candy bar each time he did it right. Run to the fence, pretend it's Uncle Mason's truck, get in fast. Jonah was really good at it. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Mason's cabin? The one where you took them fishing last month? Derek's face had gone from red to white. She's confused. Maybe she had a dream. It's not a dream, Vera insisted. She turned to Officer Halstead. Jonah is at the cabin with Miss Amber, Daddy's girlfriend. She was supposed to watch him until Monday, then Daddy would find him and be the hero. He explained it all to Grandma Constance on the phone. I was sitting on the stairs listening. You little liar! Constance stood up, her notebook falling to the floor. How dare you make up such stories? But Vera wasn't finished. Grandma said once everyone thought Mommy lost Jonah or hurt him, the judge would give Daddy both of us. She said the police would believe Daddy because he has a job and owns a house, and Mommy is just a poor single mother. Those were her exact words. Officer Halstead was already reaching for his phone. What's the address of this cabin? I don't know the address, I said desperately. Derek never told me exactly where it was. 1847 Lakeshore Road, Vera recited. I remembered it because 1847 is the year they founded our town. We learned that in social studies. Officer Halstead spoke rapidly into his phone, dispatching units to the location. Derek grabbed his phone, frantically typing something, but Officer Halstead took it from his hand. I'll need to hold on to this for now, he said calmly. You can't just believe a 7-year-old's fantasy. Derek's controlled facade was cracking. She's been coached. Renata probably told her to say all this. I didn't know anything about this, I said, my voice shaking. Vera, how long have you known? Since yesterday, but I thought maybe Daddy would change his mind. I thought maybe he'd realize it was mean. She looked at Derek with disappointment that broke my heart. But at the park when Jonah disappeared and you started blaming Mommy, I knew you weren't going to stop. 20 agonizing minutes passed. Officer Halstead's phone finally rang. He listened, his expression shifting from skeptical to shocked to grim satisfaction. They found him, he announced. 3-year-old boy matching Jonah's description at the cabin. There's a woman there, Amber Fitzgerald, who says Derek Turner asked her to babysit for the weekend. She had no idea the child was reported missing. I collapsed back in my chair, tears streaming down my face. He's okay. Jonah's okay. He's fine. Officers say he's eating ice cream and watching cartoons. They're bringing him back now. Derek stood up, trying one last desperate play. This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to give Renata a break. She's been so stressed. I thought if she had some time alone this weekend, she'd feel better. Then why didn't you tell anyone? Officer Halstead asked. Why let everyone search? Why accuse her of selling him for drug money? I was in shock. I panicked. Vera picked up Constance's fallen notebook from the floor and handed it to Officer Halstead. Page 47. She wrote down the whole plan yesterday. She even wrote about what to tell the police to make them think Mommy was a bad person. Constance lunged for the notebook, but Officer Halstead was faster. He flipped through it, his eyebrows rising with each page. Mr. Turner, Mrs. Turner Sr., you're both under arrest for filing a false report, custodial interference, and conspiracy to commit fraud. This is insane, Derek shouted as they handcuffed him. I want my lawyer. That notebook proves nothing. Amber will tell you I just asked her to babysit. But the notebook told a different story, and everyone in that room knew it. The moment they brought Jonah through those police station doors, the rest of the world disappeared. His face was sticky with chocolate ice cream, his dinosaur shirt stained with what looked like juice. But he was smiling, and completely unaware of the chaos he'd been at the center of. He saw me and broke free from the officer's hand, running straight into my arms. Mommy, I went on adventure. Miss Amber has 5 cats and she let me name them all Dinosaur. I held him so tight he squeaked, breathing in his little boy smell of graham crackers and apple juice. Over his head, I watched as they led Derek and Constance to separate police cars. Derek kept shouting about lawyers and misunderstandings, but Constance had gone silent, her face a mask of disbelief that her perfect plan had been unraveled by a 7-year-old. Vera stood beside us, and I pulled her into our hug. "You saved your brother," I whispered into her hair. "You saved us all." "I just told the truth," she said simply, but I could feel her trembling now that the adrenaline was wearing off. 3 months later, we sat in family court for what the judge assured us would be the final custody hearing. Derek's lawyer had tried every angle, claiming entrapment, coercion, temporary insanity brought on by divorce stress. But the evidence was overwhelming. Constance's notebook contained dated entries going back 6 months, documenting their plan to frame me as an unfit mother. Text messages between Derek and Mason showed the cabin plot being organized weeks in advance. Amber Fitzgerald testified that Derek had told her I'd agreed to let him have an extra weekend with the kids. "Mr. Turner," the judge said, looking over her glasses at Derek, "you orchestrated an elaborate scheme to traumatize your children and destroy their mother's reputation, all to win a custody battle. Your 7-year-old daughter showed more integrity in that police station than you've shown throughout these entire proceedings. She awarded me full custody with supervised visitation for Derek, 2 hours every other Sunday in a court-approved facility. The criminal charges were still pending, but his lawyer had warned him to expect probation at minimum, possible jail time at worst." Outside the courthouse, Derek's sister Melanie approached me. We'd always gotten along before the divorce, but she'd stayed silent during the battle, not wanting to choose sides. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I knew my mother was vindictive, but I never imagined they'd go this far. If you need anything, if the kids need anything, please call me." I appreciated her apology, but trust would take time to rebuild. That's what our family therapist kept reminding us. Healing isn't linear. Some days Jonah would ask why Daddy couldn't come to his preschool play. Some nights Vera would wake up crying, afraid someone would take her brother again. But we were healing. Slowly, carefully, together. 6 months after that terrible day at the park, I got a new job at a pediatric clinic. Better hours and better pay than my hospital position. We moved to a duplex with a real backyard where Jonah could play with his dinosaurs and Vera could practice gymnastics on the grass. The neighbors were a retired couple who'd already adopted my kids as honorary grandchildren, filling the void left by Constance's toxic presence. "Mom," Vera said one evening as I tucked her into bed, "do you think Daddy ever really loved us?" It was the hardest question she'd asked yet. "I think he loves you the only way he knows how, but sometimes people get so focused on winning that they forget what they're fighting for. Your dad forgot that being a parent isn't about winning. It's about loving your children more than your own pride." "I feel sorry for him," she said quietly. "He lost us trying to keep us." The wisdom of this 8-year-old never stopped amazing me. She was right. Derek had been so determined to win, to control, to possess, that he'd destroyed any chance of a real relationship with his children. Jonah barely remembered him now, and Vera had told the supervised visitation coordinator she didn't want to see him until she was older. Last week, we went back to Riverside Park for the first time. I pushed Jonah on the same swing, watching Vera master a new trick on the monkey bars. My phone rang, and for a moment, my chest tightened. But then Vera called out from the bars, "Mom, it's okay. We're right here. We're not going anywhere." She was right. We were exactly where we belonged, together and safe. Derek had tried to use my children as weapons against me, but he'd only taught them the difference between real love and manipulation. Vera had found her voice that day in the police station, and she'd never be silent again. And that's the unexpected gift hidden in the worst day of our lives. My daughter learned that truth is more powerful than lies, that courage matters more than intimidation, and that sometimes the smallest voice in the room can bring down the loudest. If you found this story compelling, please share it with others who might need to hear it. Leave a comment about your own experiences with finding courage in difficult situations. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful, true stories of resilience and triumph.